Hey, yo.
Let me talk to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good afternoon, good evening, and what can we tell you? Hello, it's the Other Alliance Guys podcast, a production of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Tim. I am joined today by the fantasy booker himself. I respect you, Booker man. How are you, Dave Scooby?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good. We are currently without our podcasting brother, Jeremy, wrestling with the MMA, who's behind schedule and may not make it this evening. But Dave and I will endeavor to carry on. If you're in the chat tonight, please speak up in the chat, and we'd love to chat with you today. Some of the things that we've got going on. First of all, we're going to be doing our usual deep dive into NWA USA from this past Saturday. And then we'll be touching on the results only from NWA Power. The deep dive for that comes from the OG Alliance guys tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. If Jeremy should make the show, we will be getting our intrepid reporter to give us the latest in championship wrestling from Hollywood and Memphis, results out of the United Wrestling Network. And Dave's going to do some fantasy booking of Scion and the national title, which he corrected me for the name of on Twitter today. I think I said Ophelia or something.
Yeah, and he was like, "It's Olivia."
It's Olivia. Well, I mean, if he's going to want to catch it on for us to, remember it, he's going to have to say it a lot more. But
Yeah.
There you go. Jay is in the house. Jay is correcting me. Yes, it is Olivia. Scion did correct me as well. Willie Bowen is here, the master of the Tyrus discs. Hello, Willie. Glad you're here, my friend. So let's get into it, and let's start off with NWA USA. We'll do that recap from season 4, episode 2, this past Saturday. Did you enjoy the show overall before we dive into it, Dave?
I did. There were some points that I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? But I just keep in the back of my mind, it's storytelling in a long form. It's not instant gratification. It's not the next 5 minutes. It's the next 5 weeks. Right.
That's a great point, and we'll figure it out as we go along. I felt the same way. It wasn't without its bumps in the road, but enjoyable nonetheless. And it started off with an interesting match. Hey, it's my cat Hudson. There we go. Come on, buddy. Hurry up. Very brutal. There you go. He sleeps up there. Yeah. Homicide defending the World Junior Heavyweight Championship against Eric Jackson. Wait, before we get into that, Kokushi629, doing well. Hope you're well. And Willie's got the joke, the Tyrus joke of the day. He is the TV champion. You need a 70-inch high-def TV just to watch him.
Maybe he should be the TV dinner champion.
Oh, you're taking food from the mouths of Willie's children right now, Dave. This is his bread and butter. So yeah, Homicide versus Eric Jackson, the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Now, Eric Jackson is someone we've seen before. He's in fantastic shape, young guy. Yep, that's a good one. However, he has been, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Kokushi. Jay's throwing me off. Yeah, he's getting a title shot here because Homicide, as we know, defends the World Junior title every single match that he's in. Eric has been enhancement talent before. We have seen him taken down by Jack Stain most memorably in 2 minutes at most, I would say, Dave, is probably what that match was a few weeks back last season. Homicide's the one working heel right now. Velvet explains to us from the commentary booth that he doesn't feel he gets the respect that he deserves. And he's returning to his roots as a nasty fighter just to show everybody what he's all about. So Eric has again, who has been squashed by Jack Stain on TV before, he doesn't get squashed here. He gets all kinds of offense against Homicide in this match. He starts with some arm drags, some shoulder blocks that make Homicide bail. Later on in the match, he blocks a Koji cutter, and he blocks the cop killer as well. Homicide works his back throughout this match. A lot of backbreakers and hard turnbuckle tosses, suplexes, and slams. And Jackson responds with a second rope crossbody and a pretty good monkey flip, but he misses a top rope dropkick and lands on the back, and he ends up getting turned over in a Boston Crab by Homicide. These guys go 9 minutes on a cold open to start the show. Dave, what did you think?
I thought it was a good match. It showed, Eric Jackson just needs, quote unquote, a little push. He's very athletic. He can go in the ring, a high flyer, but he doesn't rely on high flying. He can also mat wrestle some. But to me, like Velvet was saying, this is the quote unquote old Homicide. He just doesn't give two shits.
Right.
He wrestles when he needs to. He gets down and dirty when he needs to. And it's just old school heel. That's what he is.
Yeah, I kind of question the need for him to turn. It must be in response to something that's going to that's happening down the road with whoever he's going to be facing. But there really wasn't much of a cause for it. But this is the Homicide, as you say, who we all know. Mm-hmm. And it's like, putting on a comfortable old T-shirt. You're like, I know, I like that. That's pretty good. And he's good to watch. I enjoyed the match too. I like that Eric Jackson, like I say, who looks like he's built like a Mack truck. He looks like $1 million bucks. He's got potential, and it was nice to see him get some offense against a dominant champion like Homicide has been. So after an upgraded video package, we get Kyle Davis with Austin Idol and Scion, or as we soon learn, the Great Cyon. And Joe Alonso's there. Kyle says, last time you met, Joe, Scion hospitalized you, which personally, I don't remember that aspect of the storyline. But Alonso says, he says, but we went the distance. So why are we having a non-title match on this coming week's Power? Why isn't it a title match? And, he says it to Austin, I'll talk to you, old man, because, your boy can't talk for himself. And Idol basically says, look, you sound stupid, you look stupid, you are stupid. And, you need to prove yourself before you get a title shot like everybody knows. You're basically tells him you're not relevant right now. And Alonso fires back that, I'm not relevant. I've never even heard of you before coming here. You don't have any legacy that anyone my age knows about. They kind of spit back and forth. And Scion, who's been holding his title and just staring straight at the camera the whole time, turns to Alonso. Now, these two had that great match last season. Arguably one of the top, I would say, top 3 matches that season, maybe even at the top of that list for Power. And basically says, you don't deserve a title shot because you haven't been through what I've been through in the NWA. You want a title shot, then earn it on Power. Dave, what did you think?
It was a good segment. It could have been a wee bit shorter. They just need to keep it simple. They don't need to drag it out of you did this and you did that and then reiterate, well, you did this again, or why is this? Why is this? Just get to the point. Just
Right.
Just do it.
It was a bit long. I agree. It served the purpose to let us know what's happening on Power. Sometimes I found, especially on this week, there was stuff mentioned that I don't remember or don't believe has happened. Like, oh, he hospitalized you. And as I say, I don't remember them ever saying that on TV before. I'm pretty sure that he was working the next, episode of Power anyway. But regardless, we move on and we get Judas with Father James Mitchell and versus Mercurio in a national title tournament qualifier. So Judas tries to chokeslam Mercurio early on a couple of times. Mercurio gets some offense in here to start. There's a clunky middle bit with a lot of punches and strikes, but Judas is a big brawler, and this is his element. Judas chokes him in the ring apron, kind of covers his head with it at one point. That was a funny spot. He controls most of the match. When Mercurio recovers, he hits a nice springboard moonsault. He can wrestle this guy. And Father Mitchell keeps him from getting momentum by grabbing the legs, and a short time later, it's a choke slam and a pinfall win for Judas. How did you see this one, Dave? Did you have any interest in it?
Yes, I did. I really don't think it hurt Mercurio to take the loss. They do need to build up someone. And Judas, I mean, just size-wise, if you look at him, yeah, he's going to be, quote-unquote, the winner in weight, height, and strength. If they can start rebuilding, I mean, with the Miserably Faithful, you have Sal and the Gimp as the tag team. They're just there.
Right.
They play a role. With Max there, Max is getting a build, even though Max has taken the loss. But with the size, if you put Max in the ring, you know something good is going to happen.
Yeah.
Judas is just that big guy that I don't think they knew what to do with. They need to build him up to go after the national championship. I don't think Mercurio lost anything with the loss due to the size differential.
Right. I mean, you were down at 74, and I think Mercurio, was he in the pre-show for that?
I believe so, yes.
Is there any sense that he's over in the crowd down there with anybody?
He gets some, but I mean, right now, I mean, he can go in the ring.
Yeah.
And he makes those that he wrestles look better.
Right.
Judas is just a huge guy. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6". They can do something with him, but he doesn't have to be main event. But he can always be in the background, ready to challenge for almost any title.
Right.
And if you look at a guy that's 6'5", 260, 270, something like that, it's going to be a good match no matter who he challenges. They just need to slowly but surely build up these people so they're not the perennial, quote-unquote, jobber type, always losing. Give him a win here and there so when he gets a big win, it's unexpected.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think there's something to be done with him. I would say he's fallen a long way since he first showed up, a year or two ago and won that battle royal without being announced. But I don't know that he's so much fallen as slid slowly down, in a circular motion. Willie seems to think that Tom Latimer ought to be a contender for the National Heavyweight
Oh,
Championship.
definitely.
Yeah, at least the National Heavyweight Championship. I know that when he talks to May at some point this week, as we'll get into, he mentions that, yeah, he'll probably be distracted by EC3 from the world title, but that's still his goal. So Judas goes over Mercurio there, and we're backstage with Pope and Kratos. And May says, what? Why are you guys harassing my love, Aaron Stevens? And Kratos says, I'm not harassing Aaron. I'm a legit threat in this company. I'm paired with the biggest star here. And Pope's like, and May's very much, grumpy face at that point. But when Pope says, May, we're friends. And she's like, oh, yeah, we thought it was kind of amusing how quickly she turns. But, we thought you two were supposed to be off on a cruise. And she looks very sad at that. But he says Aaron jumped on him. He didn't ask for this. He jumped on Pope, and he pissed off Kratos by doing so. He says, we have a big announcement, however, and here it is. And then Pollo Del Mar and Thrillbilly Cyrus rush the set. Kratos and Pope just kind of go, and they leave. Pollo, who's very funny in this, in the latter half of this segment now, screams that, why do those guys get TV time when they aren't in the national title tournament, and Silas will show you what a real man looks like. She's talking to Crimson, Anthony Mayweather, when they meet in the tournament. I'll jump right to you, Dave. What did you think of this segment and all the directions it seemed to want to go in at once?
It was, to me, it was a little scattered, but it keeps the story going. That They were going to make an announcement. Now we have to wait until the next time they're available for May to interview them and see what the actual announcement was. I like how several of the storylines are intertwining, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm not really sure about the black glove management and Aaron Stevens. I'd rather see him just continue wrestling.
Yeah.
But if there's a good to decent payoff down the line, I'm willing to wait a few weeks. If they keep the story going and keep my interest, then hopefully there will be a good payoff at the next pay-per-view or at the next Power Trip taping.
I didn't write it until NWA USA earlier, but I know a lot of the guys around the NWA fam that we talked to are big Kratos guys. I think he's okay, and I look at Pope and think, why is he down here doing this with Aaron Stevens, with Kratos, with May? Like, he brings a shine to everything that he touches. So maybe I answered my own question, but I so badly want to see him at the top of the card, and it doesn't seem like it's currently in the cards for him to do so. Anyway, we go straight to Stanley's Drill with James Mitchell. This one was extra ridiculous this week. The questions are, whose father are you exactly? Who made you that sweet velvet jacket? How would you describe me? How does it feel being in the same room with me? And the Sinister Minister gives as good as he gets, with some answers that include, really the big one. How does it feel being in the same room with me? And he says, I'd rather slam my cock in a car door. They actually throw up a rooster over the word and make the sound. It made me chuckle. Your thoughts on this?
It wasn't a total wasted segment. I did get a chuckle out of some of it and the speeding up and the bleeping, but for a Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning show, I'm like, okay, maybe keep this to a little segment on Power, but I'm not sure why they continued with having Jamie Stanley do Stanley's Drill when he is now with Colby.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, a lot of it, does have to do with the tapings. I've been at the tapings, and some of them are taped out of order, but most of the time they try to keep everything in sequence. But sometimes, whether it's a week that's skipped or we need to fill in some space and they move one segment to another, they just need to watch the continuity.
Yeah. Always a bit of a problem, sometimes worse than others. Not too bad here, but
No.
but I agree. Media M5's here. Hello, sir.
Greetings.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Right from that segment, which was a bit of a waste of 2 minutes, I think, overall, but we have Mike Bennett versus Brian Myers in the national title tournament qualifier. I think this is probably the fourth match for the tournament qualifier. It might be the sixth, I'm trying to remember. But VSK is immediately out with Brian Myers, and he's sent to the back because he doesn't have a manager's license. And you begin to think, all right, that might be something that is important later. This is a solid wrestling match that is mostly clean. Bennett wrestled, very technically, and Myers wrestled kind of a classic heel style of strikes and stomps and wear down holds to keep the match slowed down. Every time Bennett tries to get going, Myers shuts him down. And I thought it was funny at one point in the match that you could hear the crowd calling Myers a Power Ranger because of the gear that he was wearing.
Yeah.
Which I think was the point of that gear, to be honest. Like, being on that Toys podcast with Cardona. But anyway,
the major players.
That's right. There's a nice combo exchange, and Myers is caught in a hammerlock submission. Bennett hits a hammerlock DDT to Death Valley Driver. Myers kicks out, and then VSK sneaks his way back into the arena, and we smell interference. But Myers hits a sunset flip, I think over a spear attempt, rolls Bennett up, wins clean. Seemed like a weird ending to me with VSK in and out and being so sneaky. Dave, did I miss something?
No, I was wondering the same thing. I went back and watched it, and I don't know if they were just going for we're the Cardona family, we don't have to follow the rules. He came back out, whether to act as a distraction and not actually interfere, but just, out of the corner of his eye, Bennett sees him, and it distracts him for just that 1 second where he gets rolled up.
Yeah, I don't think if that was the case that, anyone in the announce booth realized that, because it didn't really come across to me.
Yeah.
There was no help getting me there, so it just seemed a bit odd. So Brian Myers is going through into the national title tournament, and that was NWA USA for this week. And we will look straight over to NWA Power, which is season 10 and episode 3, September 13th. There's a cold open. The question Mac, I'm going to take a cue from J. Cal and say I'm not going to call him the question mark. And Casey Rocks with Aaron Stevens versus the Pope and Kratos. So we'll just do results only for Power and leave the meat and potatoes for the boys tomorrow night. Some quick notes I had. I don't think it's any secret since it started. I hate Rodney Mack's gimmick here right now. Rocks is absolutely no match for anyone. He doesn't look like he belongs here. And I'm sorry, because I think I'm sure he's a great guy. I wrote down what a waste of Pope. And also that Kratos, well, he's still a powerhouse. He looks heavy to me. He looks like he's put on a few. Kratos pins Casey Rocks, and afterwards, Black Glove Management lays them out. But a new question mark scares them off. A gentleman who slides into the ring wearing similar gear to the original question mark makes a karate symbol, and everyone bails. Dave, any thoughts?
I really don't know. I mean, like you were saying, Casey Rocks. I mean, he just got manhandled. He didn't really belong in that match, but he was used as fodder for the win. That he's basically going to be Aaron's whipping boy.
Yeah.
But I really don't understand. But I mean, when I saw the new question mark, I'm like, all I'm thinking is I'm having flashbacks to, we really don't know who this is, but years ago the WWF did the machines. And you had the Giant Machine, who you knew it was Andre the Giant.
Right.
They had Hulk Machine, they had this machine, they had that machine. You knew who it was under the mask. This, we really don't know where the storyline's going. I'm willing to give it a couple weeks to see where it does go. But I was a real fan of the original question mark. So, I mean, to me, it's not in good taste, but they aren't running it down, and it's not really in bad taste. It's sort of in limbo for me.
Well, he's going to be
see where it goes.
Yeah, he's going to be back later in the show. I'm seeing him up close and hearing him talk. I'm pretty sure I know who he is, but we'll get there in a few minutes. Let us know in the chat when you saw what turns out to be question mark 2. What your thoughts was. Mine was to take off my glasses and kind of rub my face on this one. But I certainly respect all opinions to the contrary. We get a segment with Kyle Davis, with Bully Ray. He gets to say that he's super excited to be here, and I honestly got to say right off the bat, I never remember Bully being this charismatic as he is right now. Like during the segments he's in, the NWA crowd is just eating up everything he says. He's very cool. But Cardona's out pretty early and tells him to scram. And Bully does this great bit, one of the best bits I've ever seen him do, saying like, Matt, you hide behind Twitter, and this is your best promo right now. Like, why don't you take 15 seconds and try it again? And I was just, it's almost a little over the line, but not quite. Turns out there's going to be a match with Mike Knox and VSK versus Bully and a partner of his choice. What did you think of this segment at the podium with Kyle Davis?
I thought it was good. I mean, you have two guys that can talk, and I mean, Bully Ray isn't the Bully Ray of TNA Impact or ECW or WWF back in the day.
Right.
He's, I don't know if you'd say he's softened, but he's not bitter.
Right.
He's not always yelling. And when he does yell, it means something.
Right.
The guy can talk. And I mean, I love that he's involved with the NWA. And he's not one of these guys that, I'm jumping to the head of the line. I want to go against Trevor. That he's helping further a storyline to help those that are around him.
Yep.
That, I mean, right now he doesn't have anything to prove. If he loses, he loses. If he wins, yay, Bully won. But it's one of these things of he's helping the NWA rather than helping just one person, and that being himself.
Yeah, part of that segment was, you don't have any friends here. And he's like, I don't need any friends here. The crowd's my friends. That's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, media says, this is an older, slimmed down more Billy Ray. He looks good.
Oh yeah,
After all the years that he's, all the damage that he's taken, it's good to see him in the shape that he's in. Just going back to touching on that question mark, what did you think of when you saw question mark 2 jump into the ring? Media M5 says mine was to say WTF, you're kidding me. Jay's was to say mine was to turn it off. I didn't know we could do that, boss. But yeah, it was good to see Bully, and I guess we'll see that match at some point. May, it has a segment with Tom Latimer, and she says, "Will you get sidetracked with EC3 for the world's title?" And he says, "Yeah, like a little, probably." May says, is it true that Bully Ray has no friends? And he says, well, maybe he's trained Camille, but so he's fine with me. It's interesting to see a little bit of continuity, where it's Bully in the segment saying, yeah, I don't care if I have any friends, and May going, wow, as if that just happened for her. They've also been throwing it recently, like, hey, it's Joe Galley, and here's May in the back talking to so-and-so. Thanks, Joe. And that's new and interesting and a little dangerous. What did you think of that segment and what they're trying to do here?
I think I do like how they're doing the segments, throwing it from the desk position to backstage. It helps the flow of the show. And I like that they kept the interview with Latimer short and to the point. Latimer, I think his program with EC3 will do both of them well. They've worked previously in Impact TNA together, but I think this will actually push Tom back up the ladder, which he needs. And once he's done with this, after the next pay-per-view, I'm hoping that they start pushing him towards a title, because I would like to see a power couple both have a title, and I would love to see him as the TV champion. Some people may say, well, that's a lower title. Well, yeah, but it's a TV champion. You're representing each and every week, whether you're out there wrestling, doing a promo, or watching a couple other guys have a match to see who the next contender is to go after your belt. That I think this would be something that could build Tom back up, unless he decides to find a tag team partner and go after the tag belts. I think going after the TV title would be his best bet.
And because the NWA is often comes from a standpoint of history, legacy, tradition, the NWA TV title, I mean, while it had some lower card talent in that title, that's Arn Anderson's belt, right?
Yep.
I mean, they had some serious people holding that belt, and they have presented Tyrus in the Lightning One era as being a serious contender for the World's Championship. In a match that we all enjoyed, right? The TV champ versus more than we thought we would anyway, than the World's champ. So I agree. I think that would be a good place for him to go. I think Tom Latimer is a future World's champion at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think that about the Pope, and both of them are kind of languishing a little bit right now. We get Joe Alonso versus the Great Cyon, as he's introduced now, in a non-title match. So non-title matches traditionally make us think, there's a better chance for the contender to go over here.
Mm-hmm.
But Scion's been on a tear, and these two, as we mentioned at the start of the show, had a really great match last season. One of the best matches they had. I was on the edge of my seat for that one. It was almost too good for TV. This was a good match for me. It was not as good as their first one for me, but I'm glad they played on that first match for a rematch here. In the end, it's Scion with a Death Valley driver seemingly out of nowhere to win. This went a good length. I didn't count it, but it was a fairly long match. How did you see it, Dave?
Let's see here. Joe did come up just a little short. I mean, he's talking smack on him on USA. I like that it's a good follow-up. It's almost reminding me of the retelling the story of Scion. That when Scion came in, he was going after the TV title. And he kept going after it and having match after match and just could never win the big one.
Right.
Well, now that he's the champion, and a fighting champion, I should say, he's defending the belt outside of the NWA, which I'm loving. They're doing their part in almost retelling that story to build up another contender down the line. That I could see Alonso possibly in a year's time going after either the TV title or even the national, depending on who's holding those titles.
Right.
But I do like that they're building it up, and if you follow either of these guys outside of the NWA, that they've had several good to, I wouldn't say great, but good to even better matches on the indies. And I mean, YouTube's your friend. Just go on YouTube and type in Joe Alonso versus Scion. Don't even type in NWA. Just see what comes up. That's all I'm saying.
Every day, Joe Alonso tweets out the same message, and what appears to be a guy trying to manifest his own destiny into reality. And he says, I, Joe Alonso, will sign a professional wrestling contract. And every day I think of responding, at Billy, pick this guy up for whatever it's worth right now, or anybody else for that matter. I even liked, although, he's great in the ring, he has some spark on the mic that needs to be, developed. But I really liked the idea of his persona. What I got from it in his segment earlier was he's like, I'm young, I'm youth, I'm now. I got, you're old. Like, I never even heard of you, Austin Idol. It was sort of like a modern day, Sean and Hunter in a way, kind of going like, who are you? Anyway, I liked that kind of positioning. Media M5 said, I'll go to here first. I didn't see James Bell. Welcome, James. On USA, Scion stepped in front of Idol for the mic as are the positioning Scion to split from Idolmania. I don't know. I don't smell that yet myself, Dave.
We'll get into that a little later.
Oh, yes. There you go. All right. Media M5, I feel they're doing this good with Scion. His name means one of lineage. I think it means wild dog. At least I thought it did. But him with Idol and the national title is good, but I'm hoping he can lead into a title run one day. Steve kind of mentioned, too, Scion has defended the title, I believe, 3 times right now outside the NWA, maybe even more than that. But at least as much as Jack Stain had during his entire run. We're going to do some power ranking in a little bit, and I'll tell you, Scion's on my list. It's I hope for great things for him too. May Valentine is supposed to be talking to Ricky Steamboat, but Rolando comes out immediately, and he says, I beat Cardona. You should be talking to me. And May tells him to go away. Maybe going to bother with this one until we go through the second one, Dave. May is out with Steamboat when we come back. She says, Ricky, what makes a champion in the NWA? And Ricky says, well, wrestling companies, they look for something for the fans to gravitate to, something to grab them. And then Rolando's out again, and he says, sir, it's an honor, and hey, you're someone who can get me a world's title match with Trevor Murdoch. What do you say? And Ricky Steamboat says, I appreciate the respect, but I have no idea who you are. And I think he said, I don't know you from Adam. And Rolando just, and off he storms out. What did you think of these two segments together, Dave?
I did like that May showed a little gumption. She did get a little pissed and started speaking, I believe, either Portuguese or Brazilian.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that when you hear someone speak in a quote unquote foreign language, they're really upset, possibly cursing, but they're cursing in a language that isn't a universal language that everybody would understand. So it's almost like I'm getting a secret curse word in here or there. I'm not sure where they're going with the actual story of Rolando, but having him pop up here and there to keep reminding people that, yes, he beat Cardona not once but twice, it just keeps that story going. I like that it didn't take up the whole interview, and that when she came back, Ricky was there. Ricky was just basically spitting facts and saying, hey, we're doing this tournament for the national title, this, that he's just speaking the truth. He's like, I really don't know who you are. You had your 15 minutes of glory, 15 minutes of fame. I really don't have a say in what you do, but I'm here to further this storyline along. Right. That he's here to push the national title, whereas Rolando was talking about going against Trevor. Well, that's the 10 pounds of gold. That's something that you have to go to the big boss man and go, Billy, what's going to happen here?
Yep. Yeah. Well said. It's funny. They May calls it this tournament bracketing the Steamboat mandate, which is nothing I've heard before, but that's kind of cool. It is what it is. I assume that we're going to see Trevor just, I don't know, pile drive Rolando at some point and pin him. I have no idea. If there's anything more than that to this, then I'll be disappointed. But nothing against Rolando, but I don't need him in my world title picture, especially not with a very uber serious world champion like we're going to see in a few minutes. We have the Queen Bee match, which on my screen is written as Queen Bee match phase 1, which is not explained on the show, but it's Max the Impaler, Natalia Markova, and Angelina Love versus Pretty Empowered with Roxy. So it's a 6-person match, and when one team wins, then the remaining 3 go against each other to try to win this tiara that Natalia Markova won in the first one. We learned early on that Roxy has joined Pretty Empowered. So for the results here, Max beats Roxy, which starts the 3-way match against her and Natalia Markova and Angelina Love. She decimates Love. Markova steals that pin from Max after Love gets crushed. And then they kind of slug it out when they won't listen to the ref, and it's declared a no contest. At the end, Max takes the tiara, and she makes this motion, and like she's going to crown herself as the Queen Bee. And she kind of throws it down and stomps on it angrily. What'd you think?
It's keeping the storyline going of the Queen Bee. I'm not sure about the match itself, the Queen Bee match. Pretty Empowered sort of left Roxy laying. They just skedaddled away. but then they're building Max back up and having the match end in, I don't know if it was a no contest or a DQ, but there wasn't a specific winner. As long as they don't overdo that, I actually like not having a winner, because then both of the wrestlers have something to prove. You didn't beat me, I didn't beat you. Time for another match to see who the better wrestler is.
Right. You know what I really like about Max? It's the little things that matter to me in pro wrestling, as you guys probably know, but it's how she has a little trinket from someone that she's beaten, and she takes that broken tiara. You know it's going to be part of her outfit at some point. That's going to be kind of neat. We then get the May with the question marks brother, question mark 2. My only comment for this is ugh. I look, I'm pretty sure I know who the question mark 2 is behind the mask. I don't know yet where we fall. Well, I'll talk to Jay if we want to do that. We keep other mask guys quiet, so it doesn't really matter. I guess for the storyline, but this just made me roll my eyes. And do you want to talk about this one?
I mean, eye rolling, yes. I don't know if it comes with age. I'm willing to let the storyline ride out a little to see where it goes, but I'm just hoping it has a good payoff.
I can almost guarantee you it won't.
Because, I mean, of the people involved, I mean, Aaron, I would rather see Aaron wrestling and not acting as a manager. I mean, Rodney, for being a 50-year-old guy, he can do it all in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to be involved in a past storyline of a wrestler that is no longer with us.
Right.
While they say it may be in tribute or an
homage
to the question mark. Yeah, the question mark was a NWA creation. But why bring it back? You already have a masked man.
Yeah, like we said last week, and media says it's real bad. There's a tradition of masked wrestlers in the NWA going way, way back. And I'm sure that if we looked into it, we would find that the question mark's widow signed off on this and said, "Hey, sure, go ahead." He would have loved it, or they all knew Josephus and what he would have thought and his contributions and wanting to do that. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should. Media says, how can NWA be so campy doing this new question mark? I know they hired Aaron Stevens, so he's back on a roll, but to do the question mark, something is poking there. I think we all kind of agree. Mm-hmm. The sooner it ends, the better. But we do get a treat. We get May with Murdoch, and she kind of says to Trevor, Trevor basically says, I'm setting the tone here, and rather specifically says that tone is ruthless aggression, which is a certain era from the World Wrestling. I'm sure it was Entertainment at the time, or maybe Federation even back then, but a rather violent era for the WWF. And I'm not sure if he's a ruthless aggression era guy himself. I don't think he was, but I could be wrong. Trevor's speaking in that monotone, low voice without yelling. He's being very specific. May says, Tyrus is talking about cashing in his TV Lucky 7 title and taking another shot at the World Championship. Trevor just says, that's his funeral. And May finally asks, why did you get involved in Cardona's match? The one where he ended up getting pinned by Rolando Freeman. Yeah. And he says that he does what's right for the company and what was happening wasn't right. And I think more importantly, he says that he owed Cardona a receipt. I like the language that goes on the edge of looking behind the curtain. What did you think, Dave?
Well, I did like the interview overall. I like that Trevor is doing the Harley race, Jake the Snake Roberts type interviews, where it's not all yelling, it's low, it's he's just calm, cool, and collected, but he's getting his point across. He's just, this is it. That's that. That's all I have to say. I let my actions in the ring speak for me. This is the Trevor that we needed all along, I believe.
I don't like to repeat the OG Alliance guys, but there's obviously so many great viewpoints between those three guys up there. Jay said yesterday on the pre-party, I think the best version of Trevor Murdoch maybe ever. And by the way, media says, yeah, Trevor was in the Ruthless Aggression era with Lance Cade. So thank you for letting me know. I have not watched WWE since the Invasion. So that's how far I remove. I mean, I keep involved in all the news, but I do not watch. It's been a long time. So finally, we get our main event for the evening. Not really billed throughout the show much. It is Big Strong Mims versus the Manster, Tyrus Smash, in a television title match. This is a rematch where, just looking at the results only, Mims kind of slams Tyrus again. I mean, I couldn't have done as well as Mims did. So no disrespect intended to Matty Mims, but it's a hard punch, and it's over, and he just leaves the title behind, Tyrus, and lets G's carry it out. He comes in, he takes off the gold, he wrestles, and he does the hard punch, takes the pin, and out he goes. And what I appreciated about this match, Dave, was how he's clearly upset about his loss for the World Championship. They've said that he is considering cashing in his TV title for a rematch at the world title. And especially what I liked was that it's almost like the television title doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
What did you think?
It looked like he was on a mission. He's refocusing his energy after losing to Trevor. And that was a hell of a match for the size of those two guys and the condition that Tyrus is in. He lost probably about 20 pounds. Got in a little better conditioning. And I think he has something to prove. He still has the TV title, but he wants the 10 pounds of gold. I myself wouldn't have him win, but down the line, who knows what's going to happen. He could end up going after Trevor. If Trevor retains at hard times, he could end up going after him in the power trip the next day.
Right.
That it's a rematch, and this time I'm giving up my TV title. Therefore, you have another title that you could set up another tournament for, or he can just forfeit it or pass it along to, I wouldn't mind him passing it along to Jordan Clearwater. We're keeping it in the family. Here you go, brother.
Yeah, personally, I hate when the idea that you can hand a title to somebody else and now he defends it. So I remember you and I are both more or less of the same age, and I remember when Andre had the world title, and it was like, for like 3 minutes, and like, here you go, Ted. I lost my mind.
Yep.
I was like, no, you can't do that. He has to win it. And then it was like, you know what? You can't do that. He has to win it.
Or I mean, to keep it within Idol Sports Management Church's money, if he ends up going against Trevor and loses, he could probably be like, I lost. I'm a loser. I don't deserve this TV title. He just lays down and has someone cover him. There you go. And then he fades off.
You're right. That's a way out of it. And, you know, I hadn't thought of it before you started talking about it today, but the Lucky Seven is really a great way to keep somebody looking strong without even having to drop the title.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody wants it, but this guy is taking his shot at the 10 pounds of gold.
Yep.
Vincent, I'm going to say Verb X Patterson. It's good to see you again, my friend. Is it Verb X or Verb 10? Let me know. He suggests that NWA needs help with their booking. They probably missed Josephus in the creative department. I bet they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always a work in progress, and we're at the beginning of a new season, and hopefully it continues to improve. That was it for Power. We're going to do something new right now before we do some fantasy booking. Something that we haven't done before, and we're just going to give it a quick shot. Jeremy's not here tonight, so it's not going to be, as full as it could be. We're going to do some power rankings or power rankings. See what I did there? Of the top 5 men's wrestlers in the NWA. And I have not seen Dave's. I assume you did it, Dave. I don't know. Yeah. I forgot to ask you before we went on the air. So maybe, and then the chat can kind of say, you're crazy, Dave, you're crazy, Tim, or we agree with you. Give us your number 5 and then kind of work your way up to number 1 and just give us a brief reason as to why it is. And then I'll write them into the comments. We can have them together.
At number 5, I have Colby Carino. And I mean, Colby, no matter what position he's put in, what matches he's put in, he tells a story, and I'm warming up to his character. He's basically a dick.
Right.
But he's one of those guys that can back it up. He may not always win, but he does what needs to be done to get the job done. In losing, it was, oh, well, the fixers messed it up for me, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do this. It's not his fault, even if it is his fault.
Right. Great. Number 4?
Number 4, Tom Latimer. I think they're building Tom up with the EC3 storyline. I'm not sure where it's going to go. But Tom needs to be rebuilt. He needs to be pushed. I mean, the guy is a monster.
He's on an upward trajectory right now, we hope.
I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, I would love to see him with a championship, but he doesn't need a championship to get over.
Right.
He would help whatever belt he wins if he does win a belt. But he just needs to be put in good storylines and just go out there and have good to great matches.
Yep, for sure.
I don't mind if he loses a match as long as he looks good losing that match.
100%.
If he's overpowered or there's outside interference and that's the reason he didn't win, okay, there's the reason. He did his best, but he was overcome. It was 2-1. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is Scion. Scion is, I mean, he has something to prove. And the storyline of Idol being his father and being the first national champion back in 1980.
Right.
He has something to prove. That's all I'll say. I'll get to a little of that when we go over the booking of Scion, the fantasy booking.
Yep, great. Number 2?
Number 2, Homicide. Homicide is making everybody he gets in the ring with better. They may not win. He has a stranglehold on the junior heavyweight championship. Now, whoever takes it from him, I'm not going to say they're made, but they will be the first person to defeat him for that belt. Whether it's a babyface, whether it's a heel, there's 2, 3, maybe 4 strong junior heavyweights in the wings that you can book for the next 3 to 4 years, depending on if they stay with the NWA.
Right.
And number 1, Trevor Murdoch. This is what he's needed to be, whether he had the championship or not. Just no nonsense, straight to the point. As JR would say, it's going to be a slobber knocker. He gets in there, he does wrestling moves, but he'll put fists to you, he'll do a bulldog. I'd love to see him actually do pile driver in ode to Harley. Mix it up a little. But this is the best version of Trevor that I've ever seen. Going back to his WWF days with Lance Cade.
Yep.
This is just no nonsense Trevor. He's not the gullible hillbilly. He's just a badass.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because you and I have 4 of the same top 5 people in there.
Wow.
And 3 of them in the same order.
Wow.
So for me, number 5, I went with Magic Jake Dumas. So again, just for anyone in the chat, I want to hear what your top 5, and this is something that I think we're going to do on the Alliance blog website. I'll probably tweet it out as well, maybe once a week, just what it is that, I think the top 5 are. You don't have to be a champion. You don't have to be top of the card for me. It's unscientific. It's about winning matches and making an impression and how it's looking for these wrestlers. So number 5, Magic Jake for me. He's been winning some matches recently. He's been featured on NWA television in a positive role. I think CJ's influence on him, it really helps get him further along the road than he would without her. There's some drawbacks to the gimmick that we've talked about ad nauseum, but he got a win, including over Luke Hawx for the national title tournament qualifier, which surprised me. So that's why he's my number 5. Number 4 was Colby Carino. One of the same reasons that you said. Colby got a win recently, an upset win with the Sunsetter over Doug Williams. Was it Doug Williams? I think it was Doug Williams.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Yeah, am I right?
Uh-huh.
Colby's got Jamie Stanley. He's always in mixing it up and squeaking out wins. He's if you're an old hockey guy, he's the Kenny Linsman of the NWA. So that's why he's number 4 for me. Number 3 was Scion. We mentioned earlier, the national champion has defended that title outside the NWA 3 times recently. He's also heavily featured. He's been uninteresting and he's been forgotten about. He's been on the bottom of the card almost since just after he started. And he is showing us that the guy behind that particular mask knows how to work. And it really kind of making this something. Number 2 for me was Homicide, with the exception of Camille, who, by the way, if we were doing an all wrestler list right now, I would have put her at number 1. is the most dominant champion in the NWA. Homicide, heel or face, defends the title against everybody, every single match he has. He is an excellent wrestler. Absolutely terrible on the mic, and I bring that up because it doesn't matter. It just, for some reason, we all seem to love him anyway, and he continues to win against all odds, even at the last pay-per-view, or winning twice, defeating both of the Mortons back to back. And then lastly, Trevor Murdoch. I should put them up here. Trevor Murdoch, for the same reasons Dave said, best version of Trevor Murdoch we've ever seen. And, in the last version of Trevor Murdoch, before he won the title, he was this terrible, what do I have to do to do anything around here? I'm screwed at every turn, and I just wanted to go, I don't want to watch this guy. Or, he was attacked all the time while he was champion and laid out, and he had to get his revenge. This is the guy to, if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, Trevor Murdoch is no longer the one who answers the door when danger comes. He is the one who knocks. And the NWA is his playground, and everybody else just works there. So that'll be my 5. I see Media M5, his top 5. He's got Camille in here, which is totally fair. Murdoch, Camille, Carino, Scion, Homicide. I'd love to see more as we go along from the people out there. Is this me or is this Jay? That's Tim's top 5. Oh, I see. It's me. It's me twice. Okay. So yeah, let us know your top 5 as we go. This is a fun segment. Next week we'll do the ladies. We'll do tag teams after that. And I think maybe we'll do an all-in after that and see where Camille ends up. So no Jeremy tonight, no UWN results, and we're going to go right to the Booker Man. We should call this segment, I Respect You, Booker Man, for those who know the joke. That's right.
Sullivan.
Yeah. Dave, you want to talk about Scion, as you've alluded to tonight, and the national title, or perhaps as we should call her, Olivia,
which I have no idea. I may actually go on Twitter and ask Scion why Olivia.
Yeah.
I mean, you think Olivia green? Well, the belt's red, not green. So
yeah, I mean,
who knows what? It may be one of his long lost loves that he named it after.
At least Sweet Charlotte, we understood right off the bat. Yeah.
But the fantasy booking for Scion, I do like that he is defending the belt outside of the NWA. My only complaint is that there's no footage being shown by the NWA. That's the one downfall I really think could help, whether it be Scion or any of your champions. If they're defending outside, it doesn't have to be the whole match. It can be them walking in and being announced as NWA whatever champion, the women's champion, the tag champs, whatever. Then clip and give us 30 seconds of in-ring action. And if they do indeed retain their belt, show us at the end them being presented their belt back and being highlighted as in the winner and still. I think that could add a little to the storyline of each of the champions, plus add to Power and or USA.
I'm going to summon my inner Jeremy because I think he'd go.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I do like that they are actually building up some contenders for hard times. Judas won his match this week, as well as Brian Myers, which really surprised me. But then I'm thinking Cardona family needs some representation, and he's already there at the tapings. Let's use him. He's I'm not going to say a good hand. He's a good wrestler. He makes anyone that he wrestles better. He has Create a Pro Wrestling where they do training and they also run shows. he knows what he's doing. He makes his opponent better, in doing so, even in a win or a loss, his opponent either stays at that level or is moved up because, oh, I hung with one of the Cardonas. But building up these contenders, if they go for the national, which Scion holds, Idol was the very first national champion in Georgia.
Right.
It was, I believe, back in 1980. He held it for 221 days. Scion needs to hold the belt longer than Idol. So as soon as he does 222, that's when the split comes.
Ah.
That I did this, you are my father, but I'm now out of your shadow. I'm better than you. You weren't there for me. Now you're trying to be there for me. Wrong answer. Step away now. I don't know if this leads to a split up of Idol Sports Management and Church's money, but I think it needs to. And the only other thing I'm not sure. You may know this, Tim, since you're a history buff on titles. Back in the day, in the NWA, if you had a mask, you couldn't go after, was it just the 10 pounds of gold or the heavyweight championship, or was it any title?
Yeah, DKM actually talked about that a week or two ago on Twitter. I made a kind of an off comment about something about a masked man and couldn't win the belt anyway. And he said, yeah, it actually kind of depended on the promoter. Some promoters said you had to unmask. Like I think he said in Texas, you had to unmask before you got your title shot. Others you had to unmask afterwards. So, I mean, for a lot of people, NWA is JCP, which is what it is. But yeah, it was different in different territories.
Well, I'm glad that they are allowing a masked wrestler to have this championship. They need to just make sure it's stretched out. He needs to hold this belt. I believe it's April 5th or 6th of next year. He will surpass Idol's reign as first national heavyweight champion.
I guess alternatively, he could go a day short, and the split could come because you're not as good as Dad. But
yeah. But the guy behind the mask, I'm glad he's finally finding some success.
Yeah, me too.
If you know who he is, he's a very good wrestler. And I mean, I hate to say that he's found his place in wrestling, but nobody knows who he is, quote unquote, because he's behind a mask.
Right. You know, and anyone can look it up if they choose to.
Yeah. But I think they need to do a sit-down interview with Scion where he's explained about his past, about Idol, why he's doing certain things, but have a maybe 2 to 3 minute sit-down where Joe or even Kyle just ask pointed questions. What are you wanting to do? How are you wanting to represent the NWA as national champion? Why are you defending it outside when it's not required of you? That back in the day, it was, if you had a title, you had to defend it every 30 days.
Right.
Now it's sort of like, well, it's at the bigger pay-per-views, or if there's something we need to make happen, we do it at a taping.
Do you think they can do that split if you're fantasy booking that based on the number of title defenses rather than the number of days? Or do you think that the time actually has to pass?
Well, I mean, I would like to give him a decent run. And my thought on titles, whether it's the national title, I mean, Camille, she's held it for over a year. That title is making her, and she's making that title. But if you switch up the TV title every couple set of tapings, which run to about 5 to 6 months, I'd have no problem with that. But the national title is a step below the 10 pounds of gold. That at any time he could request a match. I don't know what the stipulations would have to be, who he has to go in front of. But he on the rung, he is right below the 10 pounds of gold, I would say, on the male side of things. So give him a good run. It's maybe 5 months, 5 more months, 6 more months.
Yeah. That's a good run.
And I mean, it's good in building up your champions and your contenders. That saying a former champion is going to face your current champion is always a plus. I mean, Jax Dane, if you don't know who he is, and you just hear Jax Dane, former NWA Tag Champion, former NWA North American Champion, former National Champion, you're like, this guy has a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot you can do to build Scion up in just half a year. You know, wrestling fan minds, and I'm one of them, our memories are short.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that. because like initially when you look at Scion as national champion, you're like, this guy beat Jax Dane, at least for me. And then, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I'm like, wow, that guy's defended the title 3 times already. I dig him. Yeah. It changes.
I mean, my thought on it is he's not an overly big guy like Jax.
Right.
Where a win would be impossible, quote unquote impossible, whereas Mayweather interfered, and that had something to do with the title change. But he can take on anybody.
Yeah.
And he's repping Idol Sports Management. So he, quote unquote, wants to make his dad proud. You have someone that is of, I wouldn't say normal size, but not a Jax Dane or a Kratos or a super heavyweight. That he can take to the top rope and do some high flying moves if need be. But he loves getting down on the mat and mat wrestling.
Right.
And I think that's what you should go back to. Mat wrestling. It's not all the high spots. It's, I'm better than you and I'm going to prove it. Prove you're better than I am.
Right. And that's right up his alley.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting stuff, Dave. Media M5 had said about that interview that you suggested to do it on their new NWA Extra channel.
That'd be a good deal. Yeah.
I just saw this on one of the Discords recently. Maybe even today or yesterday. It's got like 1,200 subscribers. Is this? So I'm not really familiar with NWA Extra, but there's a lot of stuff in there already. Do you know about it?
Yes, it's basically that they're wanting to keep, I believe, the NWA regular channel for their shows.
Okay.
Whereas they'll have interviews and the podcast type shows little highlight videos that highlight their talent, but it's not in-ring action.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
more or less, they're just trying to build it up and keep the one channel for strictly their shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they last time I checked, they had like 600,000 subscribers. Is that right? For the other, I could be wrong. I might be a number I made up in my head. I just wanted to go back to the chat before we call it a day. Vincent Verbex Patterson, Carino and Morton should team up with Harry Smith to form a faction. That's a cool heel one. Now that'd be different. We've talked about Carino and Morton before. Just kind of a fortunate sons tag team, right? Our dads were something in this company, and we deserve it. And I agree with those who say that Kerry Morton would make a fine heel with that swagger that he's got. Harry Smith, yeah, that'd be interesting to see how he would feature in with that. His top 5 would have been Tyrus, Latimer, Scion, Homicide, Murdoch. So 4 of the 5 names you and I talked about there with Tyrus in at number 5. And it's interesting that Vincent would pick that Tyrus in there, because even though he recently lost his chance at the 10 pounds of gold, he wins on Power, and it's clear that he is still in the main title picture with his ability to go. So that's through the lucky 7 right back to the top. Around that NWA Extra channel, media says, just learned of it 2 days ago. It's the old Carneyland channel. I think it was said. Many don't know the channel exists, especially if they do their streams. So we'll have to help them promote that. And Merton would make a good heel, just not a likable face. Yeah, I mean, almost a slappable face, as they used to say sometimes. He's got some of his dad's charisma and swagger. I will give him that. But thank you, everybody who spoke up in the chat tonight. I'm going to throw up our contact info on the socials. Dave, you want to tell them where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Dave Scooby. I don't post that much on Instagram, but I'm pretty busy on Twitter, promoting our shows, promoting the NWA. If you have any suggestions for fantasy booking, just hit me up, send me a message, or hell, even here in the chat, just let me know.
Media says people used to boo Kerry just running around the ring with his dad. I used to be one of them. It's funny. I am on Twitter at NWA Gold _ Facebook and Instagram. I'm at NWA Championships, because my name that's just what it is. It's different in other places. Media, we're going to sign off. If you have a suggestion, reach out to David at Dave Scooby and let him know what it might be. Please tune in tomorrow night as Jay and Jaden and DKM take a look in depth at NWA Power. They talk a lot of NWA talk in the original Alliance Guys format. That starts at 8 p.m. Again, Jay's doing every Tuesday at 5 in the hour before Power. It's the pre-party, the one that kind of started them all. Please join him in for that. It's a very popular podcast on the channel that the boss runs himself. So thank you all for being here. Until next time, we'll see you at the match.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.